Hello storytellers and welcome. I am Lex Lank, writer and artist, and this is Creator's Cut, where I chronicle my continuing creative journey. Today I'm going to be talking about the fact that yes, writing is hard, but there are reasons you should not quit. Hello, welcome if you are new and welcome back if you have been here before. Again, I'm Lex Lank, a writer and artist. And today I'm going to be talking about the frustrations of writing. So if you are new, and just recap if you're not, I have been working on a very long fantasy project, very long fantasy novel. I am currently editing it and getting it ready to query and ready for publication and all those good things. And that's pretty much been my life for a little while now. The creative aspect, the good aspect, I guess. Not that the rest of it's bad, but the main creative aspect of my life for a little while now. And I'll be honest, in the last few weeks especially, I have been struggling to get through this edit. It's been a lot. I mentioned in one of the previous videos, it might have been the last one or the one before that, I really don't remember, sorry. But one of them recently, that this is a huge project and it's probably going to be the most difficult story I will ever edit and or work on, simply because one, it's the beginning of a big project, and two, it's just very complex in all the good ways, but all the meticulous ways as well. So for a writer, and in editing mode right now, trying to sort through all of that and put it together and make it sound good and make sure that it matches and make sure that I have everything and all of the etc has been a lot. So the last few weeks especially, I've definitely been struggling with getting through this particular draft and just editing, because it is such a heavy edit. I have a lot of work to do, and reconstruction and just a lot on this project, and it's been fun. I won't say that it hasn't been fun, but for probably like a week or so, I was definitely very frustrated with it and just kind of to the point where I really kind of didn't want to continue. And I think as creatives, as artists of whatever kind, we tend to either, one, downplay how difficult it is to create something, and not just throw it on a page, but create something beautiful and refine it to the point where it is masterful. Or we tend to do the opposite and play up the fact that it is so hard, and the suffering artist syndrome, to where this is so difficult and it's so hard and feel bad for me, but also, look forward to my art. I think we tend to do one or the other, usually subconsciously, not intending to set out either downplaying how difficult our work is or over-exaggerating how difficult our work is to where, we sound snobbish. But I think that's definitely the typical that I see with artists. They kind of fall into one or the other sometimes, and not necessarily meaning to, not necessarily wanting to, but it is a typical thing. I don't think we usually look at how difficult working on a project is in a realistic manner, to where we acknowledge that, yes, in my case right now, writing is hard. Yes, creating is hard. Yes, art is hard of any kind. Anything that is worth doing well, and anything that is worth doing well is not easy. But I think we tend to forget that, and tend to forget looking at that in a healthy way, to where we acknowledge it, but don't let it overwhelm us, and don't let it stop us from creating, and don't let it get us to the point where we just want to quit. Where I felt a week or so ago, because writing is hard, art is hard, but in the case of the context of this video, writing is very difficult. If you do it well, even if you don't do it well, it's difficult. Unless you were putting something in ChatGPT and having it spit it out for you, which I frown upon, to put it lightly. unless you're doing something like that, writing is hard. And I personally don't count that as writing, so that's cheating. But if you're not cheating, it's difficult. And if you want to do it really well, it's extremely difficult to not only continue when things become challenging or when a project is bigger than you thought it would be, or even more taxing than you thought it would be, but also just difficult to sit down and continue to work on a long-term project. Because the thing that people don't like hearing is that this takes time. It takes a lot of time if you're going to do it well, and even if you're not going to do it extremely well, which if you have watched any of my videos, you will know that I believe you should do everything to the best of your ability. But even if you're not doing that, it takes a long time and a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of skill that you have to learn over time. And people don't like hearing that. They don't like things being slow. We live in a world where everything is so fast, and we just want to instantaneously be good at something, or have it instantaneously work out, or take a few months, you know, like, oh, well, that book will take, you know, maybe a month, right? And then I can edit it in, you know, maybe a month, and then I can publish it. And that's not usually how that's not realistically how that works. So I think we tend to downplay or upplay, so to speak, how difficult it is to work on a project, but then also the time involved and the effort involved and the continual effort involved. And that's to our detriment, honestly, not looking at the difficulty in a realistic way, because this is a difficult sphere to be in. Art is difficult. Anything is difficult, but again, speaking on the art spectrum, on the writing spectrum, it is definitely difficult, and that's something that I think we should acknowledge and be okay with. I think we should realize that yes, we're going to come to those points where we want to quit and we want to stop and we want to honestly have things be easier, and maybe we're tempted to not comb through this book again, not do another edit, not put in extra effort, or just put it on the shelf and quit. But ultimately, that's not what's going to make you a good writer, what's going to make you a good artist. Quitting is not what polishes your skills. Quitting is not what makes you move forward, but also the opposite of that, looking at it as the, you know, suffering artist, as the almost holier than thou type thing, where again, feel so bad for me, I'm, you know, doing so much, is not healthy either. I think we need to have a healthy view of how difficult writing is and how difficult creating is, so that we can move forward and that we can acknowledge that yes, this is hard and I'm struggling and I'm going to struggle at some point, but at the end of the day, I still need to move forward and continue doing what I'm doing, because if you don't, then the end product will not exist. I struggled over this last week, especially with this draft, to the point where I was even like, can I pull this together well? Can I pull this together well enough? You know, can I do this story justice? Do I actually have the ability to do that? And Kat, my best friend, thank you, Kat, smacked me around, you know, like gently smacked me around on the, not literally, gently was like, no, you're fine. You're fine. You're doing fine. You're overthinking it. You're just going through a rough patch. It's okay. It happens. This is a big project. You have to acknowledge that, but you can keep going and you can finish. And if you don't keep going, then it won't get finished and nobody will be able to read it. And that's not good. So just keep going. It's okay. You'll figure it out. She does this in such like a calm way. It's like, no, it's like acknowledging, yes, this is hard and I know you're frustrated, but I think you're just overthinking it. It's all right. It's all right. And that just made me think, yeah, you know, you're correct. You're correct. It is hard, and I should acknowledge that. I shouldn't pretend like it's so easy. That's the other thing I think people do. If it's not the suffering artist, it's the, oh, this is so easy. It's so easy. I can just do this super easily. Everything I put to paper is amazing. You know, That's the other thing that I see sometimes. And again, that's unrealistic too. We all have particular things that we're good at in writing and creating that come to us more easily, of course. I think obviously over time, you grow to polish your skills and become better at different things too. I used to really, really not like writing fight scenes. And I used to not be great at writing fight scenes, I'll be honest, but now I actually really enjoy them. And I think I've massively improved, and beta readers have said, oh, I really like how you put this together. This is so cool. So I am definitely happy that that's changed, but that took a lot of time and effort. It was hard. It was hard. And I think acknowledging that, yes, all this time and effort went into it, and yes, it was difficult, and yes, I was able to overcome my frustrations with it and my lack of experience. I was able to take time and polish my skills and heighten my talent in that regard, in that area. And I think we all have those things. We all have things we're great at. Initially, I've struggled with description too when I was starting writing, or over-describing actually more accurately. I struggled with that, but then there were other things that I was like, oh, okay, well, this is pretty simple. A lot of people have a hard time coming up with titles. I've never had a hard time coming up with titles. They just appear out of, thin air. They just pop up like fireflies. It's like, oh, the sunlight, hi, I'm a title. I mean, I've never had a hard time with that, but other people have a hard time with that. And so we all have things that we're good and bad at, or less polished at, less talented at initially, but we can work through those things and work to improve in those areas over time. But the main point is that we have to acknowledge that we have an issue and that we have a struggle, and the opposite, that we can overcome that struggle, but the main factor is time. There are two main factors here to acknowledging in a healthy way that writing is hard and that creating is hard. And the first is looking at the fact that yes, this is difficult, but it is a possibility, and not only a possibility, but an attainable possibility that we can overcome these challenges through hard work, through the polishing of our skills, through the second main point here, time. Admitting writing is hard comes with admitting the fact that we need time to improve our skills, and we need time to actually work through the challenges that we have, even if those skills are polished and we are at the point where we can write well and we're not as worried about polishing the skills. Because over time, obviously, your writing changes throughout, your whole life, throughout your whole time writing. What I write now is miles and miles and miles different than what I wrote when I was 12. And I wrote my first novel. I probably would look at that and be like, who is this person? Like, who wrote this? Even this draft of this story, I mentioned a few videos back that it seems very, very different compared to how I would write it now. And it's been a year, well, a little over a year since I started writing it. It took me about a year to finish it. And the writing was still completely different than how I would do it now. Your writing is going to change over time. Your skills are going to change over time. How you put things together is going to change over time, and what matters to you as far as your theme and everything else is going to change over time. But I do feel that every creative has something recognizable in their work, even if it's their early work. There's a spirit, so to speak, that is unique to them and their worldview that carries through in all of their work and all of their stories and all of their drafts and all of etc. You can tell it's them even if the writing is completely and utterly different. But of course, over time, your skills are going to improve to the point where you are really not as worried about mastering the techniques anymore. You're not really worried about improving the mechanics as much as you are about adding flourishes or saying what you want to say, searching new themes, etc. We reach a point of mastery of basic skills obviously you can still learn new things. It's not that you can't, but I believe you reach a point of mastery of basic skills, and then you transition it from there to polishing your personal outlook, so to speak, your personal worldview, your personal way of putting themes across and ideas across. You work on that your whole time as you're writing, but in the beginning of, when you're starting writing, you're more concerned with, one, telling a good story and, just having fun with it, telling a good story in that way, trying all the things, but improving your basic skills. Over time, that's going to become less of a concern, or not really a concern because you know what you're doing by now. And it's going to switch to the other aspect, which is the more exploratory aspect as far as the story itself and making the story polished and, beautiful and something that is lasting and impactful versus trying out your skills and just trying to figure out what you like. And there's nothing wrong with either. Both are good and both are needed. But over time, your skills change. But that doesn't mean that you don't have challenges, that you don't have difficulties. You might be polished in your writing. You might not really be worrying about the mechanics so much. And your writing might be changing naturally over time, again, still. But that doesn't mean that there's not things in the narrative that are hard for you. It doesn't mean that the scope of the project isn't hard to get through and to overcome. In the case of what I'm writing now, I feel very comfortable in my writing. I make tweaks here and there, and like I said, it has changed a lot even over the last year, but it's not, I don't feel like it's as much of a technical thing as it is stylistic. But I feel very comfortable in my writing. The actual pieces that are put together grammatically is less what I have had an issue with, and more just the amount of editing I have to do and the amount of things that need to change and making sure I have everything in place, all the little tiny pieces in place in this big, huge project. And I explained, actually, I think a few videos ago, that this book is very long and I'm going to have to cut out a lot of it, which I already knew going in. I typically write more the first time and then cut out the second time, or cut out in editing. I'm not one of those people that writes less and then adds in editing so much, other than if I'm adding scenes or something, but like grammar, sentence, narrative, prose, that I typically cut out as I go in to the edit rather than adding. That's just how I do things personally. I know other people do, the opposite, or they have more to add, or it's just more of a, they don't really add or subtract as much. It's just refining things, but everybody's different on that front. I typically have to cut a bunch and I'm going to have to cut a bunch this time too. I won't really go by word count necessarily because I'm still going through the edit, but I know I have at least probably a book's worth of word count to cut out. And that's just how I write, and that's fine. There's nothing, bad about that necessarily. But that has actually made this very frustrating, because I think over the last year, stylistically, how my writing has changed, it's gotten a little bit less wordy. Well, it's gotten a lot bit less wordy. And wordiness is something I've always had an issue with, I've always had a frustration with. I think one of the first novels that I ever worked on that I didn't finish because I started like a second draft of it and I was just not happy with the first draft. The first draft I think was like 300,000 words and counting, and it wasn't even done. So yeah, that tells you I've had trouble with wordiness. But over time that's changed a lot, and I've gotten more specific about what I say and how I say it. So even in the last year, that's changed quite a bit. So I knew going into this that I was going to have to cut out a whole bunch of words, and I was fine with that on the level of, oh yeah, okay, I need to do that. But being fine with it on that level and actually acknowledging, okay, yeah, this is going to be hard, and that's okay. I can do it. It's going to be hard, but I can do it. But it's also going to take time. Acknowledging those two parts of writing is challenging was not something that I consciously did when I sat down to do this edit, because this is definitely the biggest edit I've ever done, and again will probably ever do, just because of this particular project and the way it is. This first book, not the whole project, the first book. But I had to really confront the fact that it was harder than I thought. It's been harder than I thought. But then I had to consciously, thank you, Kat, consciously go, okay, I know it's harder than I thought, but I can do it. And more importantly, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And that's my second part of kind of what I'm saying here is, I think when we have challenges as writers or creatives, we need to acknowledge that our work is hard. We need to acknowledge that, and in a healthy way, we need to go, yes, it's hard, but I can do it, and it's going to take time. That's the first thing. But the second thing, actually, I'll just say the third thing we have to acknowledge. We're going to make it three. The first is that, yes, creating is hard, writing is hard, but we can do it. The second is that it's going to take time. And the third, and probably most important point, is saying yes to whatever it is. Saying yes to the project. Saying yes over and over and over again. And I talked about this in episode 5 of Creator's Cut, when I went into speaking about beginnings and how we do have to choose to continue doing whatever we're doing despite challenges over and over again. So I knew this, but as with most things in life, the more you encounter a specific truth, the better you understand it and the better you can work with it. I knew that a project is difficult and that I have to keep saying yes over and over and over again, or nothing's going to get done. I knew that, and I had acknowledged that, and I thought I had acknowledged that well enough. But again, as in life, the more you learn something and the more you go through the same thing, the better you understand it. So this time I was like, okay, I knew this. I thought I had acknowledged it. I thought I was ready. I thought I was ready for this edit and how hard it would be. But I hadn't really taken the time to go, okay, not only is this hard, but really take the time to acknowledge the other things. This is hard, but I can do it. And yes, it's going to take time. And even though I kind of did know those things, but I wasn't really letting it sink in. More surface knowledge or subsurface knowledge. I wasn't totally letting it sink in. And that just happens. That's something that happens. Again, you come against these things and you just have to make these acknowledgements and understand these truths over and over again. And the more that you come against a wall, the better you are prepared for it the next time you encounter it. So that was my remembrance here, was that, okay, yes, I'm going to say yes. Saying yes is the big part, because we can talk about how things are difficult and how we can do them and how they're going to take time all day. But if you don't decide to say yes to the project, regardless of those factors, then you're never going to get anywhere. You have to be able to say yes. And you have to be able to hold to your yes with a conviction. You have to be able to hold to your yes. Most of the time in life, the thing that is between us and finishing whatever it is we're working on finishing, or wanting to finish, or wanting to present, or wanting to do, is the yes. The thing that is between us and completion is the yes. We might want this thing, we might even think, oh, I can do this, but we're not actually saying yes. And we're not actually holding to yes. We're not actually saying that no is not an option over and over and over again. The thing that is between you and completion is the decision of yes. The decision to continue going regardless of how frustrating it might be. And also the change in mindset. Because once you say yes, you tend to shift to looking at the aspect of I can do this versus the aspect of this is hard. You acknowledge that it's hard, but your focus after you say yes tends to shift towards, but I can do this. So I think that we as creators are a lot happier when the focus shifts to, I can do this, and yes, versus this is hard, and yes. The not very enthusiastic yes. Once you have said that, okay, I'm going to do this regardless of whatever the frustration might be or whatever issues I might be facing, however hard it might be, because we've acknowledged that it's hard, you naturally start to think, okay, well, I can do this, and I might have this many pages left, but I got this many done, and I'm looking really forward to this particular section, or, oh, I'm going to learn these things as I go through this monster edit. Or, you know, I can't wait until this is done. Not in a, oh God, I can't wait till this is done, I wish it was done already. But in a, I can't wait till this is done, I'm making progress sort of way. Once we acknowledge that something is difficult, but we can do it anyways, and hey, we're going to do it anyways, and no is not an option, then we can start to shift our focus towards the happier part of the project and to the lighter side of the project, because we've already acknowledged that it's hard, but I'm capable. It's hard, but that's not going to stop me. It's hard, but I still want to see this story come out and people enjoy it. And that matters more to me than how difficult it might be. So if you are in the middle of a project, struggling, please just remember this. Acknowledge that it's hard. I'm not going to lie and say that it's not. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of frustration. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We won't go into that again because that's not the main point. The main point is that you are still capable of finishing this, or starting it, or working on it, or wherever you may be in the scope of the project. You are still capable of getting it done. You are absolutely capable of saying, yes, I'm going to finish this, and I'm going to do it even though it's hard, and no is not an option. No is not an option. The answer is yes. And then do yourself a favor and write down all of the particular areas where you're struggling and where you're thinking negative thoughts, such as, I have 100 pages done, but there's 500 left. You could be looking at it that way, or you could be going, like my mom said this morning, actually, when I was talking to her. She's like, yeah, you have, okay, you know, this many pages left, but you got that many done. Look, you didn't have that many done beforehand. You can shift your thinking. It's not impossible. It might take a little bit of rewiring or a little bit of, you know, effort on your part of writing down, okay, these are the negatives. Let me swap that. Whatever your negative is that you write down, such as, I have this many pages left, or I have only this many months to complete this, or whatever it is, take it and then cross it out and write under it, and red ink or whatever ink makes you happy. I like red ink, even though it's the cross out kind of ink. Red ink doesn't frighten me like it frightens some people, but you know, write it in a different ink, highlight it or whatever underneath, the complete and exact opposite of the negative that you wrote. So if I have 500 pages left is your negative, then cross it out and write, I have 100 pages done that I did not have done before, and soon the rest of them will be finished too. I think you will find yourself to be a lot happier as you go through your project, and that you'll be able to naturally start to think that way when you come across negatives. When a negative enters your mind, you know, it's when you think, oh, this chapter is bad. I can't believe I wrote it that way. Oh, I forgot that and I forgot that. I think you'll find yourself inclined to naturally go, no, what's the opposite of that? Okay, well, the chapter might not have been what I really wanted, but I can go back and edit it. You know, I might have forgotten a few things, but I know what they are and I can add them next time. I already know what to add. I already know what to do. I just have to sit down and do it. I think you'll be a lot happier. So if you have any other writing tips of how to kind of get through this, writing is difficult and let's acknowledge it, but keep going. If you have any other tips for what helps you get through a project and keeps you on the sunny side of things, please leave them in the comments so that other people can see and hopefully be inspired by that, as well as this video, and that we can all go out and get more work done at a good, but slightly faster pace because we're not worried about how hard it is. Or at least less worried about how hard it is. So thank you so much for watching. Despite all of this, I'm actually doing well with the edit. I am making progress and am more excited about it now than I was before. And I think I have a better scope now of where it's going and how to pull everything together. Everything is starting to come back to a point of flow, so to speak, once I got past the mini meltdown of this is hard. So I am looking forward to getting this project done. I know it's going to take a little more time still, but I am working hard on it, and I hope that whatever project you have going is going well too. And I will see you in the next video. Small announcement on that front. I actually am going to be moving these videos to once a month now because of the edit and trying to get all this done. And also, these are mainly update videos, and I still want to continue making them, but I have another set of videos that I've been working on for a little bit now that I also want to start uploading. So I should be uploading those to YouTube within the next few months. I don't have an exact date, but please watch out for those, and I think you will enjoy them. They're a little more on the writing side of things, so please look forward to that, and I hope you have a wonderful month, and I will see you next time in the next video for Creator's Cut. Thank you so much. What's the word? Lack of what? What am I? Words. I think most writers either are really great with spitting out words from their mouth, or they're just really not great with spitting out words from their mouth. They just all go onto the page, and the page takes them all up, and then when you have to say them, they don't want to come out. And that's just really annoying. In the comments, please tell me if I'm not, the only one who gets frustrated with that. And if you also get frustrated with that, don't worry, that's another thing that you can practice. This is why these videos are good. I'm gonna get this out. This is gonna come out, and these words are going to come out and make sense. Oh, they're gonna make sense. This is what editing's for, even in video. This is what editing's for. Editing is a good thing. I love you, editing.